they got to wake up with their piss hot. So, you just got to be ready to go. And that's reality. That is the way it is.
Woke up with my piss hot. What a way to start. Sweat on my forehead, racing hard. Woke up with my piss hot. Ready to ignite. Let's raise some hell. Let's own the line.
Daniel's just a rookie. 26 out of 30. 87%, 231 yards. He rushes for 47. He's doing everything. Shredded, baby. C.J. Stroud, 345 yards. Brings the Texans back. Wins it at the buzzer. Shred him, Stroud.
Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee, powered by Flurry Sports. It can be tough to win a fantasy league on your own, but at FFBC, we will work together to bring home the hardware. Hosted by Zach Bruner and the rest of the Flurry Sports crew, we will give top-level analysis, answer your questions, and, well, go off on other tangents.
That was after I tried to get ChatGPT to admit that 9/11 was an inside job, but it stood firm. It gave quite a few solid points that it was true.
Welcome to Fantasy Football by Committee. The show starts in 3.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee. Welcome back to the Wednesday ranking show, soon to be the ranking show yet again, which is the podcast, the video series, whatever you want to call it, that we usually do when it's not NFL season, where we rank anything, everything. So if there's things you want us to rank, let us know and we will do that. Luke had a good idea before the show, ranking wing sauces. So I think we're definitely going to do that. But that gives you the headspace of, the type of things we're going to rank. A lot of food stuff, a lot of music stuff probably coming up, stuff like that, games, movies, characters, and of course some sports stuff. But tonight we're talking football still. Regular season's done. I don't know how I feel about it. I feel lost. I feel little self-conscious. What am I without my fantasy football rankings,
Well, I was going to say,
weird.
it's like probably for 90% of football fans, it's like one of their kids got taken away, picked up by CPS with losing fantasy football here. Like, what do you even think about it anymore?
I don't know. Like, it feels weird. That first weekend of football, wild card weekend, like, they try to make me forget about it. They have the 2 games Saturday, 3 Sunday, 1 Monday. You got every time slot filled up. I don't care. Like, I want all the games. There's going to be one game that stinks. Hopefully all these games are good, but the one that stinks, that's when we're going to feel it. That's when we're going to be like, oh my God, I wish we had Broncos Raiders going 6-3 right now in the second time slot. I wish we had that.
Where does the first round of the NFL playoffs rank for first round of playoffs in sports?
Well, I mean, major sports, I think it's for sure the best.
Out of the major professional sports.
Yes. I mean, Stanley Cup playoffs are great. That's always good. That's fine. NBA, if we're not talking play-in, truly do not care. Play-in, I'll consider it. Play-in's fun. Play-in's the best part of the NBA playoffs, to be honest, because there's stakes. It's one and done.
Yeah.
I guess some teams too. But, like, I don't care about the rest of it. At least those games are usually close.
The only one that I think is kind of close, and again, it depends on the team, so I agree with you, is baseball, the wild card. If you have a team that, is never in there, or a team where the fans are just rabid, like when the Pittsburgh Pirates were in there years ago. But to your point, like, if it's just like the Mets against some bum team that nobody cares about, then it sucks. Well, so even at its best, baseball first round is 50-50.
I mean, just to add a little bit more spice to baseball, like, you can be the Brewers last year and win 95 games or whatever they did, and they only made it 2 games farther than the White Sox, who had the worst season of all time. Like, the best of 3 in the first round of baseball playoffs is crazy, but it's really fucking funny.
Now, if the baseball still had the 1 game wild card, I'd put that one just over because those games were insane and it was 2 and done, so you never had bad games. But with all these dumb 3 game series all in the same place, all the series are sweeps. It's probably football. Gotta be.
I've never seen a baseball wild card game round or whatever, but the fact that they reduced the series, that sounds fun. That sounds like it's better for sure than 7 games. Less games is for sure better.
Yeah, football's weird too, right? Because every playoff game is like it's win or go home, one and done. Whereas every all the other sports you can lose a game and still move on, which is kind of interesting. But football's obviously number 2 to college basketball, right? College basketball
Yeah.
is just
If that counts,
football.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just football, but in basketball form, it's one and done the entire way. That's fucking incredible.
I mean, the first 2 rounds, that first weekend of March Madness is the best event in sports.
Yeah, I will say
And then it goes downhill fast.
does taper off quickly.
Yes. Yeah. After that, once you get that week break where everyone's practicing before the Sweet 16, Sweet 16 and on is pretty much trash. For
Sweet
sure,
16's all right.
It's
Yeah.
okay, but usually Sweet 16, it's like, okay, we had some fun teams make it here, but now all the good teams got a week to practice and they're going to get fucking boat raced.
The only reason people like the Elite Eight or the Final Four is either if your team is in it or if you have money at stake. Other than that, I couldn't give less of a damn what happens in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I don't know if
agree.
I don't know if I made the point on this show or I said it whenever, but conference tournaments are much better than the March Madness tournament.
Yeah, I would agree for the most part. Start to finish for sure. Like at least the conference championship means something.
Right.
Usually. Not always, but usually. But yeah, before we get into, we're going to go over some of the what we're calling fantasy football awards. We're just kind of looking at the leaders and stuff like that. I have all the boom bust data done so we can see who the most consistent players were. Maybe some people who were very boomer bust. Luke's getting choked up about it. It is a sad thing that football is done. But we got all the boom bust data for sale that you can get, and all members get it. And that's a good time to shout out our members once I can find it here. So if you become a member, you do get shout outs on the stream. You get access to a group chat where you can ask fantasy questions to us whenever. You get access to all of the data, including the boom bust data we'll go over. And if you become a yearly member, you can get the draft kit next summer/fall, whenever you're doing your draft, completely free. And that is up until probably the NFL draft. Then I'm going to take that away, to be honest. So $35, you get the full season. You get our help for the entire next season. You get a free draft kit. Draft kit alone is probably going to be $10, $15. So it's going to pay for itself. And there's lots of other good stuff. And if you want any data, any tools, anything like that, you just ask us, ask me, and I will do my best to get that for you. So what you see now available for members, that's the lowest amount that it's going to be. It's going to continue growing. And then hopefully we do some members only streams as well. And if you look at the ticker below, by the way, there's a little bit.ly URL that you can go to, bit.ly/daily-leadoff. That is going to get you to a page where you can subscribe to our new email newsletter as well. So, and that's brought to you by Luke, especially right there. He's designing something really fun, I think. There's going to be definitely some sports headlines you want to pay attention to, sports history. What other stuff do you think they're really looking forward to, Luke?
We're going to throw some music in there too.
All good stuff. I mean, everyone likes music. So everyone likes sports. Everyone likes music. So I like that a lot as well. So we'll keep that going on the bottom. But while we do, let's head over to the boom bust data. Again, members get access to this. That is not the boom bust data. Let me get the boom bust data. It's coming right there. Okay. So what this is it goes week by week, and you can see who it was a boom for you, a starter for you, or a bust. So players who possibly lost you a week, players who are going to win you a week, and players who were at least startable. And this is good, especially for best ball, right? So if you're drafting best ball teams, you're looking for those big performances, the booms, especially. You're concerned less with the busts. But if you're going season long, maybe a player is really good, overall in season long rankings. But if they lost you your matchups a third of the time, that's not very valuable. Looking at this right here, this isn't, you obviously like him still, but let's just take Josh Allen, for example. Josh Allen was a bust 25% of the time, which means he possibly lost you a fantasy week at quarter of the time. He was fantastic. Quarterback 4. No doubting you loved him on your fantasy team, but was he more valuable than Jalen Hurts, who was a starter essentially the same amount of times, but he was almost never a bust, just 2 weeks. And one of the weeks was obviously fantasy playoffs. We remember he exited basically immediately. That sucks, which means he really only had 1 week where he was bad for you. So when you're thinking about season long next year, this is data that is very useful for that. Quarterbacks may be less so. I'm going to be adding kickers onto this very soon. I think that's going to be super useful for kickers. It's super useful for defenses. So number 1 scoring defense on the year was the Denver Broncos. They were incredible. They were not just good. They were a top 3 defense, a boom, possibly winning you the week half of the time. That is absolutely ridiculous. They were almost never bad. 1 week they were bad. But yeah, they were a boom, a top 3 defense. They were scoring touchdowns left and right half of the time, which is absolutely insane. And it shows you how much more valuable possibly they were than the Vikings, who the Vikings were a bust the same number of weeks. They were a starter. They were 75% of the time. They're so consistent, but they weren't the difference maker, I would say. They were only a boom a quarter of the weeks. That shows you how big of a difference there is there. Is there a specific position you guys want to look at or any specific comments on defenses here? Worst defense, no surprise, Carolina Panthers. 32 was barely ever start worthy.
They got ran all over this year.
Yeah. Tennessee, New England, Carolina, over half the time they lost you a week if you're running with them. Interestingly, same thing with Atlanta. They ranked a bit higher, but 56% of the time they were busts, which is really sad. They ended the season pretty strong, but first half of the year, atrocious. Let's look back at quarterbacks here really quick.
And just
Again,
I'm just looking to see any outliers here. Like, who's someone that you expected to be high and they weren't, or someone you expected to be low and they're high?
Well, let's just look at bust. We'll sort it by that. So this is interesting just because, again, this is players who specifically lost you a week. And I would say Kirk Cousins heading into the season, maybe he wasn't super valued, as he never really is. But Kirk Cousins traditionally has always been the player who's not going to lose you a week. Like, he's always around that 16 to 20 point mark. And there is nobody who was worse this year from a fantasy quarterback perspective than Kirk Cousins. 71% of the time he was a bust. 71% of the time he actively lost you the matchup. Yet he ranked quarterback 21, which isn't good. But again, it's higher than Anthony Richardson. It's higher than, where did Aaron Rodgers rank? 15. So similar to Aaron Rodgers, I would say. But Aaron Rodgers wasn't that actively bad. But yeah, that's interesting. Stafford too. Stafford's pretty high. 62% of the time.
Jared Goff is higher than I would have expected.
Yeah, Jared got half of the. That's a good point. Jared Goff was good or he was bad. Truthfully, half the time he was a starter, half the time he was a bust.
And that probably coincides with just how strong their running game is as well.
For sure. I think almost definitely all of that is game script, but that just tells you he was quarterback 8 for the season, and I wouldn't have wanted to own him.
Right. Yeah, I doubt people won championships with Jared Goff at quarterback.
You say that. I mean, look at his last 4 weeks, though. Quarterback 5, 2, 3, and 11. But, if you got there, he won you it.
Okay, that's what I mean. Like, looking at the weeks before that, other than the top 1 or 4 finish, I mean, Jared Goff isn't carrying you.
Correct. If you somehow picked him up because you had Jalen Hurts, I guess he would have went down this week, so that's not a good example. But if someone went down, maybe Stroud, maybe you finally jumped off the Stroud train at the very end of the season and you picked up Jared Goff, that would have been a good thing. The Stroud had that week 14 bye. But yeah.
One guy
that's
I
interesting.
like is, and it's not one guy, it's one position, Pittsburgh's quarterbacks. A lot of talk about that coming in. What would they be? Obviously, Russell Wilson wasn't great, but he didn't have a ton of busts. Justin Fields, obviously, week 1 and 2 were not great, but weeks 3 through 6, more than serviceable. I mean, if you have him and Russell Wilson, you're probably not drafting a quarterback, which means you have a ton of depth and stuff. And you look at once Russell Wilson took over, really, week 15 is the only big week that he was bad in terms of, playoff implications. So, um, interesting that a lot of question was quarterback controversy. Do they have no quarterbacks for fantasy purposes? They had two.
Yeah, and what makes my boom bust data a little bit different than other people's, I will point out, one is how I define these things, but also Justin Fields, like you said, you put it out week 15, he was quarterback 36. That doesn't count against these here. So they had to start and they had to play the majority of the snaps. If he started and exited, for example, Jalen Hurts, I'm going to have to go back and change that. I just quickly completed this data today on the back end. So Jalen Hurts, his week 16 where he got hurt, that's not going to count against his boom bust stuff just because that's not fair. This is the only position I do that for because if a running back gets hurt, that seems more natural and part of the game.
Yeah.
Whereas quarterbacks, it's just not going to happen very often. So yeah, if they didn't start the game, I'm sure there's a situation where Joe Flacco probably came off the bench and played a half of the game or something. That's not going to count against him.
When
Stuff
Anthony
like
Richardson
that.
quit,
Right?
he's too tired.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's a great model for the city of Indianapolis and the NFL as a whole. He's great.
Well, a reason to listen to our preseason analysis. We talked ad nauseum. You go up to number 3, Baker Mayfield. We talked about getting him easily in the 10th round or later. Finished quarterback 3. Not only that, low bust percentage, which to your point, lower than Josh Allen. Started as much as Josh Allen and boom more than Josh Allen. And in the playoffs, he did well. Week 13, week 10, no other bust outside of week 3. So in that offense, I'd assume he does maybe not the exact same next year, but he's going to be a guy you can get late. He'll be sitting there.
Yeah, we'll see if his offensive coordinator gets hired away or not. But yeah, Baker, he was almost 100% exposure in best ball on Underdog for me. I had, unfortunately, that was such a great call. I had a lot of Mayfield and Godwin stacks. So
Yeah.
I got paid out, but Godwin was insane to start the year, but obviously the injury. Looking at running back quickly, I mean, by far, this is very rare to see. Jahmyr Gibbs, not only was he terrific, not only did he have an insane end of the year because of David Montgomery, he was never, ever, ever a bust. There's 3 players who were never a bust. That is Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, even after, the start of the year, the workload issues, possibly a little bit in all of last season. Nice to see. He was never a bust. Also, I guess there's a couple others. So Kyron Williams was never a bust. And Alvin Kamara, few people.
David Montgomery.
But the only player who was always a starter, always worthy of a start on your team, was Jahmyr Gibbs. He was by far the most valuable running back in my eyes. Saquon Barkley, very close. Saquon Barkley, a top 6 guy, I believe it is, half the time, which is insane. But Jahmyr Gibbs, he never, ever lost you.
Yeah.
He was always a reason why you potentially won. He was always a matchup difference maker for you. And that is very tough to find on a consistent basis. You just don't get that. Looking at busts, there's going to be a lot of busts here. But to find one that is interesting, let's see. Bucky Irving's interesting, I guess. Running back 14, he was a bust over a quarter of the time. Tyrone Tracy, running back 25, he was a bust 40% of the time. A lot of that came early on in the season, but I would argue he still wasn't very consistent if you look at his workloads and stuff. And it truly is workload based, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
What we will do, something else we'll for sure have for the draft kit is fantasy points per touch, especially for running backs, because I would assume Tyrone Tracy sees a big workload and overall role bump next year. I mean, he's a wide receiver turned running back. Second year, I believe he's ever played running back. and he wasn't even really used as a receiver out of the backfield. So, like, if you're looking at someone who can explode next year, I feel like Tyrone Tracy's that kind of player.
Yeah, tough tough year for Javonte Williams.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah.
He's done. I think. Where even
Yeah.
is he? Oh, up here.
You had him, yeah.
Yeah, half the time he was a bust.
That's tough for me having him in Dynasty. But, another guy that we kind of highlighted that I think, will springboard into next year too, definitely Chuba Hubbard. Like, if you drafted him, you kind of said, well, we'll see what I can get from him until Jonathan Brooks comes back. Obviously, unfortunate what happened to Brooks, but he just kept going. I mean, he was incredible this year. You probably got him late in the draft. Starter 71% of the time. I mean, that he might not win you your league, but he's going to be one of the reasons you're in the playoffs for sure.
For this year, for sure. I mean, next year it's going to be a true split, so we'll see. But I mean, this year, those who got him lucked out because, I mean, we thought Brooks was going to be back potentially by like week 5, and
Right.
for sure week 8, and then they had to buy in week 11. It's like he's for sure going to be back in week 11 in a full go, and then he was still eased in, and then he still got hurt. So, I mean,
Is Najee Harris like the most? Yeah, he's fine player of all time.
yeah. Truthfully, he is the definition of an RB3.
Yeah, yeah, RB3 middle end to low end flex.
Yeah, if you need to put him in, he's fine as a bye week fill in. He's not going to win you a week, but he's going to have the touches to be fine. I mean he's
look
a 1,000-yard rusher again.
Like, look at how low the boom and the bust percentages are for
Yeah.
Najee.
Yeah, he's right around that 20 to 30 range the entire way.
Do you guys think the end of the season performances from Jonathan Taylor are going to vault him to be overvalued for next year's draft? Obviously, there's a lot that happens until then, but it seems like once a year there's somebody who gets overhyped on how they ended the season. Looking at you, Gabe Davis for Buffalo, and then everybody drafts him too high. Do you guys think the same thing happens with Taylor this year?
I don't think so. I think everyone has such a sour taste in their mouth with the Colts that I think everyone probably is going to be undervalued there. Like Michael Pittman, Josh Downs like that. Michael Pittman's going to be drafted under Josh Downs next year. I'm pretty confident in that. And that's embarrassing. Like Josh Downs is not, he's the wide receiver 3, maybe 2.
Those 2 number 1 finishes for Jonathan Taylor to end the season, which is great. I won a championship with it. But it seems like the Colts finally figure out, let's maybe give the ball to our best player instead of watching Anthony Richardson throw 4 for 21 in the first half of games.
Yeah, no kidding. We'll see what that team does. Obviously, they're bringing essentially everybody back for sure on the offensive side. I don't know. Richardson, I would assume, works his ass off and takes a step forward next year. But, I think Anthony Richardson's going to look better next year. How long will he look better for? Like, if he gets one hit to the mouth, is he going to sit out again? That's possible. One interesting player, and we'll move off of running backs then. Like, Joe Mixon, when building the boom bust data to start the year, he was arguably the most valuable running back. It was like Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, and Joe Mixon. And then that offense took such a fall off. Like his final 3 weeks here of the fantasy season, the fantasy playoffs, killed you if you had him.
Yep.
We talk about it every year. Fantasy football is just a sports stock market at the very simplest terms. If you had Mixon, you could have got a ransom for him before the playoffs, and if you traded him, you talked about earlier this year, the league winner is going to be whoever moves off of Jordan Mason at the right time. That was your league winner right there, whoever moved off Joe Mixon at the right time.
I was looking at that, Zach, at Brees Hall. Not as bad as people thought.
No. I mean, it wasn't pretty to get to those totals in any case, I don't think. But yeah, he wasn't bad. A quarter of the time, he was a boom. Over half the time, he was start worthy. A bust 18% of the time. That is less than Bucky Irving, who is the fantasy darling of a lot of people. Rightfully so. I mean, he was basically undrafted, right? Chase Brown, pretty low. I mean, same amount of busts there. What's that? Tony Pollard's pretty low. Yeah, I mean, it's not much different than Devon A-Chain, 12.5% versus 18%. And A-Chain's sky high. Like, he's a lock RB1 drafted next year. And I think people will think about Breece Hall, and I don't think they're that much different.
Yeah, agreed.
Interesting. Wide receivers really quick. So obviously Jamar Chase was the wide receiver 1. Yeah.
Just looking at Jamar Chase's numbers here.
Insane. Only receiver to not bust.
Yeah.
Or that's not true. Not Brian Thomas. Malik Neighbors was the other one, which is, if you were a Malik Neighbors owner, I feel like you wouldn't believe that.
Right.
I'd like to see a split of fantasy points for everybody, first half of games versus second half of games. Because Malik Neighbors may have the best second half stats of any receiver. He was just never targeted in the first half. I don't really understand it. AJ Brown was terrific. He's obviously ranking low because of all the games missed. 7% of the time was a bust, though. Over half the time, a start. Quarter of the time was a boom.
We
talked
about him a lot throughout the season, but kind of the opposite of Najee Harris. I mean, look at Jaden Reed's finishes.
Yeah, for sure. Jaden Reed, I mean, 12.5% boom, 37.5 starter, 37.5 bust. That's a lot of players in this area, but again, Jaden Reed, I would say that even the games that he was a boom, it was because of 1 or 2 plays.
Yeah, it's crazy. You have a 1 overall finish to start the year, and then a 108 finish to end the year.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was not great. Obviously, against man coverage, he was incredibly terrible. I don't know. It's hard to feel good about it at all. One player I do want to find.
Xavier Worthy's an interesting one.
Xavier Worthy's interesting. Why would you think that's interesting?
Because
it's the same as me.
Right, Xavier Worthy came in with all the hype, right? Fastest 40 going to the Chiefs, he's going to dominate, right? He was borderline unstartable for the first 13 weeks of the season. And then I'm sure, like, people like me, they hung on to him, and maybe a guy went down with an injury. And I would imagine Xavier Worthy finished 16, 11, 15, probably helped win people championships here.
Yeah, that end of the season helped him a lot. I ranked him pretty low, so I think he probably outperformed where I ranked him for the season stuff. His role was inconsistent. That's no surprise. What's maybe surprising for me is this guy, fastest 40 time ever, right? Just the very obvious going to be a boom or bust player. He was never a boom.
Yeah.
Like he never had like that insane week. And I'm not saying this as a pro or a con. He never had that insane week to inflate his numbers, which is interesting. Like, he was kind of steady in his role.
Yeah, just part of the offense.
Yeah. He wasn't a big part, but he was a part. The player I was looking for was Cooper Kupp. He had such a fine start to the year. Obviously, one of the worst. I mean, he might have been the biggest disappointment for the fantasy playoffs of any fantasy player.
Yep.
It was not great. Third of the weeks were a bust, and obviously 3 of those 4 were the fantasy playoffs, so not much to love there.
Well, a guy that I like looking at his stats too, Deebo Samuel. I was all out on him this year, right below 44. You're seeing a ton of red, and then 5 in week 16, and if you started him again in week 17, you were burned. Like, that week 16 is probably on a lot of people's benches, and he was nothing all year.
Shout out Marvin Mims for ending with a wide receiver 3 week.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Getting to 57. They started to use him a decent amount down the stretch. He's an interesting one for next year, I think.
Allen Lazard also has a lot of boom for where he is.
That is true. Allen Lazard, I mean, he was a touchdown guy for Rodgers. Amari Cooper, I'm interested to see if he's drafted next year. I don't know how he can be. There was so much hype with him going to the Bills, and then he did this. Like, you can't even really explain it.
Yeah. I mean,
they didn't even try to use him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the Josh Allen takeover show, and the Bills run the ball now, so it kind of feels like Bills receivers are rightfully, I'm not gonna say undervalued or overvalued, just not used at all.
That's true, but like Mac Hollins was used.
I guess, yeah. I expected more out of Khalil Shakir too, and that just didn't happen.
That's one that I feel like he was fine, and he's a very good real life receiver. I think the fantasy community is overhyping him.
Yeah, probably.
Like he had good games, and again, a lot of it's just because of game script and how they were running the football for sure. Because he's the wide receiver 3, came off the field a lot in 12 personnel and stuff like that. But yeah, he was a. I mean, he was a wide receiver 4 for you. Like, there's going to be people who go out in their drafts next year targeting Khalil Shakir because of how good he is, and he's just a depth piece by week fill-in. Truthfully,
Right.
Most of the time.
53, number 53, Chris Godwin. Like, look what the injury took from us, man.
He
was so good.
I should have looked for him. Nick Westbrook Akine. Never a boom, which kind of surprises me. But boy, wide receiver 54 outperformed Romeo Dobbs, outperformed Amari Cooper. Good for him. A lot of touchdowns there. But yeah, Godwin was on a historic run. 71% start worthy, never a bust. Even in the game he got hurt. It was at the end, I guess. It was like final play. But yeah. Thielen too. Thielen fucking end of the year good.
Yeah.
He's steady. Started terrible.
Yeah, shit.
Never was a bust after that. He got hurt, and then he was just rock solid. Love it. Jackson Smith and Jigba, a starter half the time, a bust 25% of the time.
At week 17 hurt a lot of people.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. As did Mr. Terry McLaurin.
Yep.
So good, and then 110. Not great. Tight ends quickly, a lot of red here, not surprising. Brock Bowers was incredible, but even he had 18% bust rate as the number 1 tight end. In terms of players who just never really hurt you, that's George Kittle and Trey McBride. And that comes down to targets. George Kittle was just a target monster without Christian McCaffrey this year. It was pretty incredible. I mean, he started the year so hot. And as a Kittle owner in multiple leagues, I wanted to trade him. And for whatever reason, I could never trade him. And he still ended fine. So it was okay. But boy.
It's interesting to see Trey McBride. Look at all those high finishes without scoring touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of 10+ target games.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. Sam Laporta, very strong end of the year. Really helped him out. Travis Kelce. I mean, that's got to be his highest bust percentage in a long time. A quarter of the games he hurt you. Still better, I think, than a lot of people would have thought, considering like the general consensus of him this year. But yeah, not great.
Listen, I love the Saints though. Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill are just the definition of boomer bust.
Yeah.
I mean, just either dark red or lighten it up green. Except for maybe week 17. I think that's the only one between them where there was white.
Yeah. Yeah. Juwan Johnson was an interesting one. He's one of the more interesting tight end 17s of the year, I think.
So
like, he was just not good at all. And he had a couple of really good weeks, and that's it.
Looking at that Juwan Johnson, that 75% bust percentage, you can expect that. But we live for that 6 point or 6 point whatever it is percent weeks.
Yes, we sure do. We sure do. Is there anybody else? Evan Engram was the bust of a third of the time. Obviously, so hurt this year. Jake Ferguson, 70% of the time he was a bust. That hurt a lot of people this year.
Yep.
Dalton Schultz too. I mean, 75% of the time. Like even when pass catchers started to get hurt for the Texans, they refused to use him.
Yeah. I mean, one above him too, Cole Kmet. I'm sure that killed a bunch of people too.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of new value at tight end, but a lot of people just completely shit the bed.
Yep.
But I
And
think
then,
there's going to be some bounce backs though. Like I feel fine about Jake Ferguson next year. I'm not even going
Agreed.
to blink.
one guy that was kind of struggling out the gate and then really flourished, Sam Laporta. Like a lot of people drafted him really high. So I'm sure there were a lot of leagues where somebody traded him away at a low value, and then he started playing well, and they're kicking themselves about that. Nothing great from him, but
Yeah, and a lot of people, including myself, pronounced Mark Andrews dead after week 4 or 5 in this area for sure. And then pretty solid end of the year. I mean, tight end 8, 5, 9, 8, and 8. You really can't expect or ask much more. So pretty solid for him.
I still have a problem with Baltimore, and I think week 15, 1 yard out of the end zone, you give the ball to Mark Andrews instead of Derrick Henry. That just feels wrong.
There's probably some incentive thing. Derrick Henry had such a good year. He's okay.
I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I made a championship with. I drafted Tyreek Hill, came back Devontae Adams, came back Sam Laporta, and looking at the same, like I don't even know how I did that. That was a masterclass of a season for me.
I guess so. Yeah.
Started all 3 of them every week.
Didn't do yourself any favors, I guess. First half of the year. What was Tyreek Hill's bust percentage? Almost a third.
Yeah,
that checks out. Interesting. I mean, he ended the season better than I kind of thought he did.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty strong in my stance of saying you have to trade for him, and then I didn't really know how I felt about it, but he ended fine.
Right. Yeah, he's another one like Najee. He's fine.
Yeah. We'll see where he goes next year, I guess. Hopefully, the Dolphins actually do get rid of him.
Hey, Luke, you said it when I had that trade offered to me. You said, imagine the story if you win a championship with Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. And
right.
You're right. He
That's
had
'cause I
that
was sitting on it.
He had that 65, I think, but that 5, that 20, that hits.
Yep.
Okay. So let's quickly go over these games, and then we can look at some Underdog Fantasy stats as well. Bringing up the sports book here. Did I get rid of it? Cool. I must have. So first game is going to be, is it Chargers Texans first game, or is it Steelers Ravens?
Chargers Texans.
Chargers Texans in Houston. It's going to be a close game. It's, I would assume, last possession game. Currently, Chargers are the road favorite of 2.5, 42.5 over under, so low game. Chargers are going to be running the ball, but I mean, there's no, I don't know. Like Luke, I mentioned to you last night, like I don't even foresee any possible scenario where this isn't a close game.
Right.
Well, that's what both of these teams do. So for Underdog Fantasy, like, or any sports betting picks, anything like that, like everything's on the table. I don't think anyone's going to get game planned out where that can happen in some games. But like, I think we can expect a decent amount of field goals. I think we can expect, because I think both teams can move the ball a little bit as well. I think the outside receivers could, for both teams, really could get shut down a little bit. Texans are really, really good at forcing incompletions. So looking at Ladd McConkey, looking at Disley maybe in the middle, looking at J.K. Dobbins is going to run the ball a decent amount. I think Joe Mixon's going to have to run the ball a decent amount for the Texans to have any sort of success. But yeah, this is a game where I wouldn't expect high, like huge performances. But I think it's going to be a close game with a lot of tackles and a lot of stuff like that.
Agreed.
Any other thoughts about that game?
No, in your betting article, I agree with you 100%. These are like two pretty evenly matched. I don't even know if you can call them up and coming teams. I guess you can. They're kind of lower seeds in the playoffs, but they feel like they're on the same trajectory right now.
Yeah. These are two teams. If you're fans of them, you feel good about it.
Yep.
Steelers Ravens are the other Saturday game. The Ravens are 9.5 point favorites. That feels like way too much. 43.5 over under. I said this to you again last night. For the Ravens, absolute worst pull. For the Steelers, this is the absolute best one. Steelers are playing their worst football, and they get an opponent that they know inside and out and have had a ton of success against. For the Ravens, it's like we've been killing everybody, but the one team that Lamar Jackson hasn't been very good against in his career, yes, he just beat them, but that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Playing any team 3 times really fucking blows. Ravens thrive on playing teams that aren't used to seeing Lamar Jackson up close and personal. Like that just helps a shit ton. So yeah, I think this is going to be a close game, but I don't think it's going to be that unfamiliar to the other Ravens Steelers games either. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah, I mean, Ravens Steelers it's top 3 rivalry in the NFL. Like, I imagine this game's a lot of fights, a lot of competitiveness. It'll definitely be a fun one to watch for sure.
Yeah, I don't expect much downfield shots.
No,
I don't. Najee Harris has run the ball from memory, at least, better against the Ravens than I thought he would have in both situations. But Jalen Warren gets a decent amount of work out of the backfield as a change of pace guy. I think Derrick Henry's pretty safe. I don't think the Ravens really trail in this game. Like, I don't think they're going to have to turn to a Justice Hill or whoever that other running back is. Not Keaton Mitchell, but the other one. Not Keaton Mitchell.
Rasheen Ali.
Ali, yeah. He's kind of filled in a little bit for Justice Hill when he's been hurt. So
shout out University of Marshall.
He's a Marshall guy? Okay. Oh, yeah, he was that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
Took him in the first round in our college draft 2 years ago.
I know. I shouldn't have told you about him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, is this guy good? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's
He's a dog.
He is a dog. He's fun. Ravens only draft people like that.
Yep.
God, that's frustrating. But yeah, I expect the Ravens to win, but it would not surprise me if they're trailing at halftime. But I think it's a close game.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a game where anyone kind of gets up by 14 points, really.
No, and it could be, and this is, I don't know who this favors, to be honest. I mean, I guess I kind of do. This could be a field goal game, and this could be one of those Justin Tucker gets the monkey off his back games, but it could not be.
Is this a for either team if they make a run to the Super Bowl? Is this the toughest game they're going to play in the playoffs?
For the Ravens, Chiefs are so good. I think, I mean, if the Ravens beat the Steelers, and this wouldn't be the matchup, but if they run into Buffalo, Steelers are a harder matchup than Buffalo. But Steelers, I mean, they just don't really match up well against people.
Right.
No matter what happens in this game, if the talking heads want it, there's going to be a story no matter what comes out of this game, right? Because if Baltimore loses, Lamar Jackson is going to get flamed to kingdom come. Who knows if he can make that up unless he wins or goes to a Super Bowl. And if Baltimore, again, we don't think they will, but if they embarrass Pittsburgh, not saying he should, but a lot of people are going to be asking questions about Mike Tomlin as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Steelers fans will destroy Mike Tomlin, even though they shouldn't win this game. But
Pittsburgh got a little Boeheim Syracuse in them.
Yeah. You're not, you know what? No, I think I do disagree actually. Because Boeheim Syracuse is like, no matter how bad this team is, they get to the playoffs and then something happens. Steelers are the exact opposite.
Through that way, yeah. I just meant that, you're always getting good defense out of them. Offense is probably going to be shitty like 75% of the time, but they'll find a way to win.
True. Who's the Buddy Boeheim of the Steelers?
Who's the guy that's coming in?
George Pickens.
Talk about two opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of people there.
Yeah.
True.
You know who Pittsburgh really is, Luke? They're not going to like this. They're the West Virginia, Bob Huggins, West Virginia basketball.
Great team.
They always have great defense, but they never do shit once the tournament starts.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
Yeah, I like that better.
Probably true. First game on Sunday, we got Broncos Bills. I think Bills are firmly in upset territory here. 8.5-point favorites are the Bills. They should win this game. They have more offense, so they definitely should win. 47.5 over under, so they're expecting a decent amount of points scored. Broncos are going to want to run the ball a ton, and then they're going to throw screens to the outside. They're going to run the ball up the middle until the Bills have to pack the box, and then they're just going to get to the edge. That's all they're going to do. And then eventually they're going to take a shot with Sutton, or they're going to get like a random Adam Troutman or somebody up the seam. And I think they're going to be successful. That's the thing. If they're not, it could turn into a blowout, I guess. But the Bills are playing the Broncos or the Eagles have the best defense in the league. So if you have the best defense in the league, you have a shot in any game whatsoever. And the Bills are very weak in a very obvious area. So, but here's the thing. So, okay, I want to play Broncos running for underdog. Who the fuck do I pick?
Yep.
Correct.
Like,
I think you find the lowest line and you take the over.
Maybe. I think I like Jaleel McLaughlin. I think. I mean, we'll get to it in a sec.
Is this? Because
yeah.
I agree with you guys 100% that like Bills could be in upset territory here. Is this like you just don't overthink it and Josh Allen's the best player and he's gonna just carry him to victory?
I mean, could we see a very close, like a tied game going into the fourth quarter, and everyone starts to panic about the Bills, and then Josh Allen just carries it 8 times in a row?
Yeah.
I think the Bills win. I think it's too close, and I think people start to have like, oh, this is your MVP. We're gonna start doing that.
Yeah.
I think this is the game of the weekend.
It's interesting. Like I said, I think it's gonna be close, upset central close, or it's gonna be a blowout. Because if Bo Nix doesn't show up, if the Bills defense stops the run, then it's like a 30-point rout. Because the Broncos just don't have enough on offense yet.
That's my concern for the Broncos.
For sure. That's why the 47.5 over-under is interesting. It feels high.
Yeah. If I had to make one more college basketball reference, last year going in the tournament, everyone's all on McNeese State, the Will Wade, best mid-major team, and they got matched up with Gonzaga, and everyone took that upset, and Gonzaga like 30-balled them. That's kind of what this game feels like to me.
It should.
Yeah.
It should. It's in Buffalo. They should not lose this game. This should be an automatic win. And that is why I'm putting money on Denver's spread for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree.
We'll talk about this game more in a little bit. Packers, Eagles. The Eagles have now gained another point. They are 4.5-point favorites. Jalen Hurts is going to play 45.5 over under. I mean, this is a game where the Eagles can completely control the game, I think, on both ends. I think the Packers will really struggle at some points. They always play to the opponent's level, though. So at some point, the Packers are going to have some big plays. I don't necessarily think it's going to result in yards. I think it's going to be those long pass interference penalties. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And this is a game, too. We talked about it last night, too. Like, if Philadelphia can get the passing game going, like, this feels like it should be an easy victory, right? We know that Philadelphia is going to run the ball. They can run the ball against anyone. They will run the ball against anyone. So we'll talk about it on Lombardi sweep, but not letting Jalen Hurts being able to pass, like, that's the key to a Packers victory here.
I mean, yes, I think stopping the run, like if you force Jalen Hurts to be a quarterback and not have a threat of the run, then they suck.
Yeah.
But if you let Saquon run the ball and then they have play action at their disposal, they have everything, then the Packers just don't have enough talent. Nobody really has enough talent to stop it. Like, draft in the chat, Jalen Hurts or Jordan Love. Jalen Hurts. This is a game where Devontae Smith, I think, you go for 120, 150. AJ Brown's going to break a tackle for a big play. And then, like, if we can stop Saquon, I think Packers have a chance, but I just don't think they can do it for 4 quarters. Yeah. Arrested Saquon.
Well, and a lot of Packers fans are saying, look how much we've improved since we played them. The Eagles have lost 1 game since week 4. Like, we're talking about improving. The Eagles are a lot better, too. They are not just the same team we saw in week 1.
When healthy, and they basically are, Eagles, I think, are the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think the Chiefs
I don't disagree.
But I think we're going to have a Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
Washington, Tampa in a game that I'm really excited to watch.
This is my game of the weekend.
I think so too. I wish they weren't playing each other But we got the Buccaneers are 3-point favorites at home, 50.5 over under. We should see plenty of points. I don't know the status of Marshawn Lattimore yet, but if he comes back, I assume he's going to be on a snap count regardless. So yes, we could see some Evans Lattimore stuff. I'm not expecting a ton. And if Lattimore lines up against Evans, I think Evans is going to cook him. So we shall
Probably.
see there. Jane Daniels playing out of his fucking mind. That's something we didn't look at the boom bust data, but he ended the year as strong as he started it. He's playing good football right now. They should have Austin Eckler back, I think, which just gives them a little bit of a something different on their offense, which is good.
Yeah, you talking about Jaden Daniels putting the same thing the other way for Baker as well.
Yeah, Baker's cooking. Baker is at he's a little more mature now, I guess, but he's almost in his college pettiness level. You know?
Yeah.
He's at a supreme confidence, which is where Baker's at his best.
And you guys talked about it off air. Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans is the best. It's everything we could have asked for. If
it
he
is.
plays, but
yeah, I don't. I love that you're excited for it, Luke. I'm not.
Always. Yeah, I get it. It kind of feels like one guy is like 16 steps ahead of the other guy right now. But just given the history, like even if Marshawn Lattimore's like on a snap count, just line him up once and try to get Mike Evans out of this game.
For sure. I mean, I hope it's as dirty of a play as possible.
Right.
I would love to see something. I want some sort of drama, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't respect this Washington defense whatsoever. That's kind of where I'm
That's
at.
fair.
I think Bucky Irving runs for 80 plus. I think Rashad White runs for 40 plus. I think if Cade Otton comes back, I think he's going to have a decent game. Like Tampa should be able to do what they want to do. Baker will turn it over at least once. He will keep the other team in the game. But the 50.5 over under is perfect. Like I think there's going to be points scored on both sides because Washington can throw it on Tampa.
Yep.
And then Vikings Rams. We'll see if this game gets moved. I guess with all the fires out there.
Crazy. You guys seen those videos? Crazy.
It's insane. And supposedly the worst isn't here yet.
How did those start?
Baby reveals. I don't know. That was a thing at one point.
Yeah, true.
I have no idea. I mean, WWE Raw, Monday Night Raw was in LA. There's a lot of fireworks. So all you got to do is take one of those fireworks outside and burn the whole fucking place down.
Well, this is too a callback to maybe a couple years ago when I said the way to stop hurricanes is just build a giant dome and contain it. Like this would be another use for a giant dome.
This would be the perfect time for the big one, the earthquake that we've been expecting.
Right.
Let it loose.
Hey, as we know, you can't have fire without oxygen, so a dome would help. Or fight fire with fire, tsunami. Boom, done, gone. Can't have fire with water.
I mean,
not a bad idea.
The Simpsons did it.
They did do it. They've done a lot of things.
Right.
Simpsons, scary. Matt Groening's a scary dude. He's an alien. He terrifies me. But yeah, Vikings Rams. This game feels like a matchup between two of the exact same team. They have different playing styles, but in terms of how I perceive them, they're the same team. Who is going to lose this game? That's what I'm looking at. We know Stafford will try his best to throw a pick, at least one, but he's going to make some fucking insane plays as well. Darnold, the Lions kind of gave the blueprint. They blitzed every fucking play.
Just send 8 at the quarterback every single play.
Yeah, I think the Lions secondary even now is better than what the Rams have, but boy,
it is.
If I'm the Rams, I'm bringing pressure and I'm making Darnold beat us.
Yeah, it is a Kevin O'Connell revenge game, which I think he has a horrible record against Sean McVay though, like 1-5 or something.
He wouldn't have played 5 times.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making that up, but I thought I read that somewhere.
I mean, they played earlier this season, I believe. I don't know who won. I think it was a close game.
It was the Rams because they just bitched about the face mask that wasn't called, as if they were just gonna automatically march down the field 95 yards.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Obviously, if the Rams offensive line can protect Stafford, the Vikings secondary isn't very good. So like Puka and Cooper Kupp will go crazy. And if the Rams don't get pressure on Darnold, then Darnold's going to go crazy. So truthfully, whoever can get pressure is going to win that game. I think there's going to be a decent amount of big plays, and I think both teams are going to turn the ball a little bit. I think it's going to be a sloppy game, and I think just from everything we said, use that stuff for your underdog picks and ask us questions if you got them. Again,
I think I made that record up. I couldn't find it.
I mean, they for sure have not played 6 times.
Yeah.
He's been. There's a chance O'Connell's coached fewer than 6 years in the NFL, not on a McVay staff.
Yeah. Yep. I just putting that together in my head right now.
But I don't think he's beat McVay. So
Yeah, at least 0-1.
Yeah, for sure. I think they've played 2 years in a row though. Okay. Looking at the chat, but yeah, take all the stuff we said for your underdog picks and stuff like that. Use the promo code Flurry to get a $1,000 bonus, and drop any questions you have in the chat now, but definitely on the video afterwards, or go to buymeacoffee.com/Zach Bruner. Become a member and you can join our group chat. That's linked below on YouTube. Draft says Jordan Love 3 turnovers incoming. Would not be surprising. He's been protecting the ball though. It's kind of been to the detriment of the Packers. Honestly.
Yeah.
But he's been protecting a little bit. Randy says, great Madden stream.
Thanks, Randy.
Appreciate it. Fun little clip of me chucking the ball straight up in the air on the goal line on Twitch. You want to go check that out? Not on purpose, but still scored a touchdown. But yeah, if you are not yet, go to Twitch and follow us over there, Flurry Sports. We'll be playing more games. Randy, you're always over on Twitch watching us. If you have any suggestions for games you want us to play, whether it be console games, computer games, something like that, let us know, because we want to start doing more of that. Is Mike Evans underappreciated? I would say possibly yes before this past weekend. Now I feel like everyone's like, Hall of Fame, GOAT. And I think he probably is a Hall of Famer, but I don't think he's underappreciated anymore.
We're getting to, a lot of players go through this. Chris Middleton went through this. Like, once everyone starts calling you the most underrated player in a league, you've become the most overrated player in the league.
That's fair. Randy thinks the Packers will win. Maybe. Packers won as a 7 seed last year. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But yeah, possible. Who's going to be the Cowboys coach? I assume McCarthy.
Yeah.
If not, then love the move of blocking him to be the Bears coach only to not hire him. That would be fun. Yeah.
Brady's got to stop calling Belichick. We need Belichick in Carolina for at least a year.
It will be. It'll be 1 year. And then you know who's going to take over?
Steve.
Bingo.
It would break my heart if Belichick, I'm out after 1 month.
However, he's done it in less time before.
Yeah, I know.
That's one. And two, he would just leave Steve. Steve wouldn't follow him to the NFL. Steve would be the head coach. Yeah. Which is also kind of fun. Because Steve's a doofus.
Yeah.
I love Steve. He needs whatever. Kyle, evening. Curious if we have any particular approach to one and done league for the playoffs. We are in some of them. I have a formula and have fallen just short the last 2 seasons. If Love plays, possibly a comment to something we said. Do we have a specific strategy in terms of like these fantasy survivor leagues?
What? Clue me in on. Sorry, clue me
Put it
in
on a t-shirt.
on the What's the format of a pool here? Like, are we picking teams? Or are we picking players? What's going on?
I assume players. So once you play them in a lineup, you set a lineup every week with whatever players. Once you use them, you can't use them again.
Got it. So this is one that I'm always curious on too. Like, especially with the Chiefs, they get a bye every year. Do you take Patrick Mahomes and just take the 0 at quarterback to start the playoffs?
No. It's not. They have those as well. So there's the ones where it's like you put a player in, and if you can play him the next week or whatever, they double the multiplier or whatever. Not that. So if I used Jalen Hurts as my quarterback this week, next week, or any other week, I can never play him again.
Got it. I gotcha.
Once you play him, you throw him away.
Got it.
So what's my strategy? Like, I have my Super Bowl pick in my head. It's Chiefs, Eagles. Only one of those teams are playing this weekend. I'm not playing any Eagles this week. I'm very confident in the Eagles. Who are the other teams we're very confident in? Or who are the teams we're uncertain about? Like, if we are saying, I'm not putting any money on them to be there next week. I think that's most of them.
Like, let's say the Rams.
Rams are interesting. I'm willing to fire up at least one of those receivers. I'm fine firing up Puka.
I am. So in a pool like this, just thinking out, I feel like you're more inclined to take like good players right away, just to make sure that you make it to the next round.
Yeah, it depends on your league. So some will be elimination round to round. Some may just add it up. Some may have highest weekly score gets paid out, and everyone's still in it to the end, and then the highest combined total is the winner.
Yeah.
So it depends on the format. If it's week to week where it's like you have to be above it, it's like guillotine, you have to be above it until you're out, then I think for sure fire the clip. But for the most, this year's different just because there's so many uncertain. I'm saving Josh Allen. I think the Bills win. Yeah,
I would say Josh Allen.
Here's the thing. If the Bills win, you want Josh Allen next round, right?
Correct, for sure.
If the Bills lose, I'm not confident Josh Allen had a good game.
Yeah, right.
So think about that in terms of your players as well. If the player loses and they're not available, they probably aren't having a good game. That's the case for a lot of quarterbacks. Receivers are a little bit different, like Justin Jefferson. True coin flip if they win that game. I'm fine playing Justin Jefferson, I think.
Yep.
How do we feel about Josh Jacobs?
That's what I was going to bring up. I think I would roll him. Like, that's how the Packers, we said, Green Bay has been, kind of making a living on big plays, on, like, pass interferences. Josh Jacobs kind of is the benefactor of that. Plus, if Green Bay is moving the ball, it's Josh Jacobs.
I agree. I don't love or hate him this week. I'm just trying to think of running backs who I have more confidence in. I have more confidence in Saquon and Derrick Henry, but I think they both win.
Yeah.
But like Kyren Williams, do I have more confidence in Kyren Williams? Not really.
What about James Cook?
No. I think he's at the same level or worse.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins, same level or worse.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon, same level or worse.
Yeah, I think Aaron Jones probably worse than him.
Probably. For sure not above. Again, same level or worse. Like, there's few people I have more confidence in. So at that point, it's like, let it rip.
I mean, yeah, if you're taking any running back in the playoffs to score a touchdown, Josh Jacobs is probably number 3 on that list behind Saquon and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, can make a case for Kyren, but yeah.
Yeah.
Close. And then obviously the good part is like the Lions have 2 legit guys you're going to play at some point.
Right.
So you don't have to feel bad if you play Josh Jacobs and he wins. Because then you have both Lions guys, you have Derrick Henry, you have people like that still. So good to go. Kyle, the love comment wasn't in reference to the one and done. He's a legit questionable with his elbow. Elbow's completely fine. Funny bone. He's okay.
I will say,
we're Packer guys, by the way.
Being in the interviews with Jordan Love throughout his 2 starting seasons now, Matt LaFleur, Mark Murphy, or someone took him like behind the shed and said, "This is how you talk to the media," because he does not talk to the media anymore.
You're saying
about Jordan Love? Jordan Love does not give like any information to the media anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a whole team thing. They have like PR people. They have like legit classes.
Yeah, but it's weird to see that evolution in 2 years.
True, that is true. would we rather save NFC quarterbacks or AFC quarterbacks that usually stay in one conference and flip for the Super Bowl? I don't hate that. I get your strategy just so you have somebody available. I guess I would rather save NFC quarterbacks. I would for sure rather save NFC quarterbacks. Like why would you save Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I mean, you can have one of them each round, pretty much assuredly, and then you can just pick whoever's in the Super Bowl for the NFC.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yep. I like it.
But even still, see what the conference championships are, but like, I feel pretty confident Patrick Mahomes is going to get there, and I don't hate playing Jalen Hurts in the NFC championship.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd rather save NFC. Okay. Fire any final questions you've got, but otherwise comment them below the video, tweet at us, do something like that. You can become a member and join the group chat and ask questions whenever. You also get the draft kit next year for free. If you are a yearly member, you can scan the QR code there. If you're on YouTube, it's linked below. And again, if there's any sort of tool, stats, anything like that you are specifically looking for the off season, for next season, let us know and we will do our best to get it. Truthfully, I want to make this the best membership for you. So we will try to supply you with whatever the hell you need. Kurt says Malik Willis is goated. I tend to agree.
W.
Yeah. Yeah. Love me some Malik Willis. Does he get paid as a starter?
He goes somewhere else next year.
I think he does as well. I feel like they're going to pay. He's going to be in in a similar situation to what the Raiders did this year.
Yeah.
I think. I hope Tennessee pays him. That would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Green Bay, like, if they want to keep him, they have to pay him, right? And then you're just paying someone for kind of a wasted roster spot because you're not sitting Jordan Love. So it doesn't really make
Packers
sense for
love that, though.
Yeah, but in the theoretical idea of football, it makes no sense to pay Malik Willis.
It doesn't, but wouldn't it be very Green Bay to say, hey, you always want to have two quarterbacks, even though that goes against the age-old quote, honestly. But let's pay him $6 million, but we don't have enough money for a punter. So Wheeling walks.
Yep.
And McManus, like, we can get younger.
Yep.
Like he can go to.
Yep.
That feels Green Bay.
Yep.
I shouldn't have put that into the universe, but I would love to clip that when it happens.
And then cut Kenny Clark or trade Kenny Clark halfway through the season. And yeah, okay.
For sure. I mean, I'm very excited to hear the offer they give to Jair.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you it's going to be almost all incentive based with almost no incentives.
Yeah.
The age-old veteran lowball offer. Like, it's the Packer way. You want to come here and win a Super Bowl? Take a $1 million contract.
Right.
There's all this dead money anyway, so it's like a $20 million contract, even though it's not at all, actually. Whatever. We'll be back in a couple minutes to talk about the Packers, talk about that Eagles-Packers game, and it'll have some good information for fantasy for sure, going over the betting lines, going over the injury report, and I'm sure Janet has some sort of tooth fact for us, so we'll grill